subject matters. There are a few more, but these are 5 main, and they contain the whole Bhagavad Gita's essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So it's Ishvara, Krishna himself. Prakriti is the material nature. Jiva is the soul, Jivatma. Karma is the activities of the soul. Soul is performing. Jiva is performing karma under the influence of Prakriti, sanctioned by Ishvara. Within the limits of the time. So if you want to say 5 of them in one sentence, this is how you can say the Jiva, all of us, we are performing karma's activities under the influence of Prakriti, material nature, 3 modes. Prakriti literally means 3 modes. But those activities are sanctioned by Ishvara Paramatma. And it's limited. Everything is limited by the time factor call. So we will discuss a little bit about this kala from our experience first, and then we will share something from Bhagavad Gita. So now we have these wonderful time management tools. We can tell what time is now. We can tell more forecast about what good time, bad time coming in next day, today, weather, this, that. But in olden times, 100, 200, 500 years ago, people used to see the time from the shade of the sun or the moon. How sun and moon moving around, they would be able to tell you what time is now. Time to take lunch, time to take dinner, time to wake up. It was governed by the movement of the sun and the moon. And then we started having clocks. What do you see here? This kala is the clock. This is the subject matter we will be touching upon. So by looking at the clock, you could tell what time is now. And then we have phones. And now people have these watches, iPhone watch. I don't know what they call it. So you don't even have to look at the phone. You don't have to look at the clock. Watch has everything. It has a phone built in. It has time built in. So this is our experience of time. What we're dealing with on day-to-day basis. Now, 2 things, 2-3 things we also experience, and it's also based on Chanakya Pandit. Chanakya Pandit mentioned that one moment of time cannot be bought by millions of gold coins. One moment of time cannot be bought by millions of gold coins. So literally that means time is irreversible or irrecoverable. You can't recover. You can't go back. And it's also said Our Chaitanya Charan Prabhu writes in one article that time is unstorable, like wealth. Time and wealth, they go hand in hand. Wealth can be saved. You don't want to spend right now, you don't have to. So you can put in the bank, put under your pillow. Cash. In India, people have a lot of cash. They put under their pillow. You can save, you can store, but time automatically moves. You cannot say that I will save my time. I will save my last, or tomorrow morning I'll save to relish day after tomorrow. Friday morning I'm going to save so that I can relish Friday morning on Saturday or Sunday. I'll have 2 mornings on Saturday and Sundays, 7 a.m. It doesn't work like that. Time flows. Time moves. That's our experience. Yeah. We really, really don't have any control over time in terms of saving it. We can manage what's coming up. Tomorrow is there, how to spend that time, how to is there, but not, I can't say I can I have control over that time. I don't want to use that time, tomorrow time, I will use another day. Or the time in the past that has gone, oh, I can go back and get it. No, it's gone. Irrecoverable and unstorable. Those are two experiences we have. I was asking one young man today, what do you understand by time? And he said time is valued based on different ages for different people. You know, kid going into the school or kindergarten has a different value for his time, and kid going into the high school or giving SAT exam or going to college or now going to work or now is married. Different people at different stages value time differently. They see the value of time very differently. Kindergarten child is playing for 2 hours, 3 hours. I know in my neighborhood, our Nitai, he leaves home and he doesn't want to go back home for next 4 hours, 5 hours. He loses track of time because he's playing with his friends. So the value of those 4 hours for Nita is very different than value of those 4 hours for his mother, who's doctor, for his father, who's also working and doing so many other things. So time has different value for different people at different stages in their lives. And that's another experience we all have, practical experience, day-to-day experience. In this material world, in this Prakriti, Jiva is performing karma, experiencing the effect of this kala, the time. So that's one factor we thought we will share. The second point, so that's a bit from a practical material perspective, but let's discuss now from a spiritual perspective. Kunti Maharani in Srimad Bhagavatam, we will cover two verses. One is this from first canto and second is from Bhagavad Gita. She sees Krishna. She declares Lord Krishna as time. So she says, Manya Tvam Kalam Ishanam Anadi Nidhanam Vibhum Samam Charantam Sarvatra Bhutanam Jan Mitaha Kalihi. My Lord, Kunti Maharani is speaking with his dear nephew, he treated him like a son, but also in many ways, her love for Lord Krishna was so intimate, so deep. She was able to have multiple relationships. How Lord Krishna saved her dignity, her family, the Pandavas, at so many different junctures of their lives. So therefore, Lord Shri Kunti Maharani says, Manyate, I consider, this is my opinion, she's saying, Tvam Kalam Ishanam, I consider you, Krishna, as eternal time, Kalam. Anadhi Nidhanam, I also see you as that eternal time that has no beginning, Anadi, Nidhanam, no end. And you're all pervasive. Samam Charantam Sarvatra. You're all pervasive. So that's Kunti Maharani's realization. Our realization I shared already, but we see time factor as conditioned souls, what we're dealing with. But here Kunti Maharani, her realizations are very deep, not something of some ordinary human beings. So this time factor on the spiritual plane, here the word Kunti Maharani used, that eternal, you Krishna, your eternal time. Now this one particular point I want to touch upon, that I want to consider that as thread of our discussion, beginning to end. Because the time we experience in this world is kind of temporary. You know, the past has gone, future will come and go. We take birth, we grow, we reproduce, we dwindle, and then we die. Time factors, we don't see it as eternal. We see as something of this material world. It comes and goes. And it makes us come and go because we are forced by the time. It's as if the example in Bhagavatam is given, the winds move the clouds. So winds is like the time factor, cloud is like us, the Jiva souls. So winds forcibly moves the cloud from point A to point B. Clouds don't have so much independence. They're just sitting there in the sky, and winds come. If they come from north to south, that's how they push the clouds from north to south. So we, the Jiva souls, we're also pushed by the time factor, under the influence of three modes: material nature, Prakriti. That's the nature. Srila Prabhupada speaks in one of the Hindi lecture. Srila Prabhupada mentions, he said, कोई बूढ़ा नहीं होना चाहता, बट प्रकृति चुपचाप से सबको बूढ़ा कर देती है. I'm assuming everybody understands Hindi on this channel. कोई बूढ़ा नहीं होना चाहता. Nobody wants to get old. But Prakriti and time factor, the time makes you old silently. Silently. चुपचाप जो समय है, in that Mahabharata series, if you remember in the beginning, it says, मैं समय हूं. I am the Kal, I'm the time factor. This is the narrator telling the audience that before I tell you today's story, I tell you that I am speaking as a time factor, as Kala. So, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that word chupchap, bude hote hain. So that's one other point. So we want to end with this discussion that how is that so far we are seeing that time is in this material world, time is temporary in this material world, time is pushing us from one point to another point as a temporary setup, some kind of a temporary setup for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 100 years for human beings. For other living entities, it could be for a dog, 10 years for a cow, 16 years. Different living entities are pushed by the time factor. Given those years, some cockroaches, few seconds, some cockroaches a day. So time is pushing these living entities to come and go within a finite time frame. But here Kunti Maharani is saying, Krishna, you are external time. Sorry, eternal time. Eternal time. She's not saying you are a temporary time factor. You're eternal time. So something we'll see if we can reconcile at some point during our discussion. That's one other point I wanted to share. Let's look at the next verse. Now, this is one verse in Bhagavad Gita where the word Kala comes very directly. So this is 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna. Arjun first requested that, my Lord, please show me your gigantic form. So Lord Krishna says, okay, please be ready to see my Vishvarup. Then Lord Krishna says, okay, it's going to be a problem. Therefore, I will give you the eyes to see, because not everybody can see my Vishvarup form. So Lord Krishna shows his Vishvarup form, beginning of chapter 11 of Bhagavad Gita. And Sanjay started describing that Vishvarup to all of us, that how it looks, how all the Devi Devtas, the demigods, are in that Vishvarup. They are praying to Lord Krishna. All the planetary systems are in that Vishwarup. And Sanjaya is seeing, and then how even the battle of Mahabharata is happening in the Vishwarup. So that now at some point within that Vishwarup, Lord Krishna shows Arjuna how all the warriors of the in the battlefield, on the Kaurava side especially, they're all getting there's fire coming out of the mouth of the Vishwarup, and all these warriors, they're getting engulfed in that fire, and they're practically becoming dust in that fire that's coming out of the mouth. It's very, there's a word used, ghastly. So when Arjuna sees that roop of Vishwarup turning into a ghastly Vishwarup, Arjuna become very bewildered, and he it's like, if you have a friend and he's always very nice to you and he does everything with culture and etiquette, and one day he's shouting and crying and yelling and he's upset with everything, and then you say, hey, hold on, I never saw this roop, this Virat roop of yours, I never saw. Is that you, my dear friend, or somebody else? So Arjun also had the same dilemma. Arjun was thinking, this is not my Krishna. What I'm seeing here is, especially when Krishna showed him that kind of a form with this fiery mouths, hundreds of mouths, okay, not one. And all these millions of soldiers are getting vanished, and so much more is happening in there. If you read chapter 11, very visual, descriptive. So that's the point. Just like we would ask that question to our dear friend, Arjuna asked this question to his dear master and friend Krishna. Who are you? Literally, he asked this question, who are you? And this verse is an answer by Lord Krishna to Arjuna. Lord Krishna says, Khalo asmi lokshe krit praviddho. Kalo asmi, I am Kal. I am the time factor. The Supreme Personal Godhead said, time I am. Kalo asmi. And then Krishna, he obviously knows Arjuna's heart. He wants to tell him more, not just I'm a time factor. What am I doing as a time factor? He says, I'm the great destroyer. Pravriddho lokan samaharutam ih parvata lok kashya. First line, lok kashya krit. Lok kashya krit means I am the great destroyer. Lok kashya means destroyer. I'm the lok kashya. I'm the great destroyer of the worlds. Lokan samaharutam ih parvata. And I have come here to destroy all people, with the exception of you, Arte, Apitwam, with the exception of you and the Pandavas, all soldiers here on both sides will be slain. So this is an answer to Arjuna's question, who are you, Krishna? I never saw this form of you. I never expected this behavior from you, that you will have such a fiery, fearful appearance. I always saw you as two-handed form of Krishna, beautiful, playing flute with peacock feather on your head, yellow dhoti, silken clothes, and Vajanti mala around your neck. This is not you. You must be somebody else. Krishna says, no, no, no. I am same, but I am also a time factor. Kalo asmi lokshekrit. So, this particular point is very important for us to understand. So now if you tie this verse with the previous verse where Kunti Mahani says, you are an eternal time. Here Krishna says, I am time. And we know Krishna is eternal. Therefore you can reconcile. If Krishna is eternal is an absolute truth. Is an eternal truth. His Golok, Dham, spiritual world is an eternal. And if he's saying he's time, that means time is eternal. So Kunti Maharani's statement is correct. We just don't have the experience. Our experience is 60, 70, 80 years of time. Our experience is based on the task list. I have a task, I start this time and end this time. It's over. And why is that? We can talk a little bit about it, and then you all can share something. I'll try to end. What time is now? 7:32. Maybe next 5-10 minutes. Losing my thought. Yes. So this Vishwaroop we just spoke about, which turn into a Kala Roop. So you can say Kala Roop is a subset of Vishwaroop. It's within the Vishwaroop. This Vishwaroop at least is shown before by Krishna to Jashodamai and to Duryodhana. And you all of you know the story. I'm just going to pinpoint just one thing, that when Jashodamai saw that Vishwaroop, when she said, you have eaten the mati, and Krishna says, no, 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 Maya, I did not eat. And she said, open your mouth. And Krishna opens her mouth and she sees all the Brahmanda, all the Brahmaloka, Sattaloka, all the lokas, all the planetary systems, mountains, oceans, everything she sees in that mouth. And then when Krishna sees that my mother is going to lose me, my rasa with my mother is motherly rasa, not awe and reverence, he immediately, through his Maya potency, he closed that curtain, and Jashodamai comes back to the senses, and she again sees her love for Krishna grows more after seeing that universal form, the Vishwarupa form of the Lord, in Krishna's, in Gopal's mouth. This is Jashodamai seeing Vishwarupa. And when Duryodhana saw, when Krishna went for a peacemaking treaty, Duryodhana was trying to capture Krishna, and Krishna showed him the Vishwarupa form. But unfortunately, Duryodhana did not take that seriously either. And he sent his messenger back to the Pandavas, to Yudhishthira Maharaj, saying, actually blaspheming Krishna. The messenger said that Duryodhana is saying that Krishna, you came as a peacemaking Duta, but you did some magical thing to show me your Vishwarup form. I, Duryodhana, can also do that magical thing and show Vishnu form. And that's not going to work in the battlefield. In the battlefield, these warriors will define the battlefield, the outcome of the battlefield, not the magic show of Vishnu. This is outcome of showing Vishvarupa to Duryodhana. We saw outcome of showing Vishvarupa to Jashodamai. Her love for Krishna grew. Here, hatred for Krishna grew for Duryodhana because of his mentality. And after this particular verse we have on the screen, Kalavasmi, where Krishna defines he's the time factor. Then Arjuna started going deeper into this Vishvarupa form, and he started praising. First, he apprehended the whole form, then he started praising, then he started glorifying, then he started saying to himself, who am I? This is Lord of all the lords, and I considered him as my sakha who I can sleep with, and I never gave him proper respect. And then he started praying to the Lord. He said, because you have shown me the Vishvarupa form, I don't know, because in the two-handed form, I could have touched your lotus feet. Where is lotus feet now in the Vishvarupa form? So therefore, I pray to you from the top and the bottom and the left and the right and all the corners. This is outcome of showing Vishvarupa to Arjuna because of Arjuna's mentality. So therefore, I'll try to conclude. Therefore, this seeing Krishna as eternal time, and I'll give you one more example. I think we have one more verse. Sorry, we'll go through one more verse, then we'll conclude. This is also from Srimad Bhagavatam, Ayur Harati Vaipuncham, very famous verse. Udhyan astam yan asu tasyarte jat kshano nita uttam shloka vartaya. Both by rising and by setting. Udyam, astam. Udyam is rising and astam is setting. Asu means the sun. By rising and setting the sun, what happens? Ayur harati vaipuncham. Ayur means our age. Harati vaipuncham. Everyone, human beings, all the living entities, they lose their age. We lose one day. Every time sun rise and set, we lose one more day. We say, hey, now he's 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old. Old mean we have lost those 5 years now. But verse, it's amazing, this last two lines, tasyarte, but those who are uttam shloka vartate, who are absorbed in glorifying Krishna. Uttam shloka is the name of Krishna. Krishna and his devotees and his pastimes. Those who are busy, those who are discussing the topics of Lord Krishna's devotees, for them, they are exception. Arte, tasya arte means those are exception. They don't lose. For them, time is not temporary. Time becomes eternal because their destination becomes eternal. Their destination is not coming back to this temporary material world. They transcend the time. They transcend the material time, and they want to. They get connected with the spiritual time, the time that's in Goloka, the time that's in Vaikuntha. That time exists there. but time does not control the living entities in the spiritual world. In the material world, time controls. Time is the boss. But in the spiritual world, time is controlled by Krishna. Krishna decides when to come back from herding the cows. Krishna decides when to take lunch or not. Krishna decides when we can stop the rasa dance or whatnot. Krishna decides. Time obeys Krishna's and his devotees, but not in the material.
There's no time in the spiritual world, no?
So we will go to the discussion point once I stop. I will need, I think, another few minutes. So that's these are the three verses. Now, one example I also like to share how I think maybe who mentioned this point? No time in the spiritual world. Who said that?
Prabhu, me.
Okay.
Amritanand.
Okay. So maybe this point will shed more light in that direction. But I wasn't intending, but I think that point I have in my notes, so I'll share. So time has a role to play in the create. Time is energy of the Lord. Just like earth, water, fire, air, ether, material nature, Prakriti is an energy of the Lord. Similarly, time is an energy of the Lord. So it's explained in Srimad Bhagavatam during the creation, in second, third, I believe both, during the creation, and Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gives this beautiful example. I'll share so it becomes clear. He said, let's take an example of cooking. We want to cook something. So creation is also cooking. Mahavishnu has to cook this creation. So during cooking, what we need three things. We need a fry pan or a pot. And then in that pot, Jayaprakash Prabhu will connect with this nicely. In that pot, you have to put all the vegetables and your other ingredients. But that's not enough. You can have a pot, beautiful, silver, whatever other coating material underneath, and heavy duty frame, everything. You can put beautiful, wonderful organic vegetables, but that's not enough. You need fire. So it's explained during the creation time, the pot we're talking about is the material nature, is Prakriti. That Lord Vishnu glances over that Prakriti. But that glance, what that glance does is with that glance, Prakriti activates. But how does it activate? There is flame is needed. That flame underneath the pot is time factor. That also comes from Krishna's, Mahavishnu's body. So that time factor activates the material nature. And then all these vegetables we're talking about that goes into the pot, in the pan, are the souls. So all kind of living entities, they enter into the material nature and get activated so that they can now come into the creation. Creation can happen, but creation will not happen. Activation will not happen if time factor is not available to them. That fire to cook is not available. So these three things. So the time factor in the spiritual world exists, but it's not, there is some English word, I don't remember, but it's not, it does not have the controlling power. But when Lord Mahavishnu decides to create, he uses the time factor to activate the material nature so that the creation can happen, souls can get activated, and then the souls can appear in this material world. The oceans can get activated, the mountains can get activated, the vegetation get activated. So the creation is prepared so that the living entities can reside. For living entity to reside in this creation, it has to have everything in place. So that's one point we wanted to mention. And then the last point, this time is a sacred, it's a gift from Krishna. And when somebody gives us a gift, our tendency is to give him a return gift. We try. So what is our return gift to Krishna? Because Krishna has given us this greatest gift on this planet Earth. During creation, by using the time to activate so that we as living entities can come back into the creation and perform our karmas. So the two things, the karma, the svabhava, and the time, these three factors are needed to come back into the creation for the living entities. Our karma, our svabhava, and the time factor. So Krishna so kindly gave that time factor to prepare this creation for us to come and perform our karmic duties, whatever those reactions we had accumulated over lifetimes, to get rid of them. So that return gift, our acharyas explained, to Krishna is our bhakti, is our attention, is our time giving back to Krishna. Time of serving him, time you spend hearing about him, time you spend serving his devotees, time you spend taking care of Krishna's devotees. So that return gift of time, that what makes this material world temporary time factor which we experience eternal. Because by doing that, our journey, Chaitanya Prabhu was mentioning so nicely, he said, our body journey is on the horizontal plane. We started, it will end. 60, 70, 80, 90 years. It's a horizontal plane. Time is limited. Time is kind of temporary, fixed, finite. But soul journey, the soul, those souls, those devotees, those bhaktas who perform bhakti, their journey becomes upward, vertical, and they actually rise, the soul rise from this temporary material manifestation limited by the time factor to another platform, another planet, Goloka, where time is eternal. Time does not have the controlling power. Time is cooperating with Krishna's and their devotees' arrangements. So by having said that, I will stop here at 7:50. Now devotees can comment, share your realization for 10 minutes. We will end by 8 as per instructions of my dear, very, very dear friend, Jayaprakash. I will stop this sharing. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Prakash Prabhu, you're there.
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm here. Hare Bo, Hare Krishna.
I'm trying to follow your instructions, and I so.
I don't have an instruction for you, Prabhuji.
No. I take them as instructions, and I seriously take your instructions as instructions because you are the well-wisher. You understand everybody's times is valuable. And here we're talking about time. So there you must respect time. Time is Krishna. This is Krishna's direct energy. We must
No,
respect.
if devotee wanted to have discussion, we can discuss more. But my point was just we wanted to start the program on time.
No, and on time too. Anybody would like to share your comments, realizations? I'm not a question answer acharya. For that, you can go to His Holiness Jayadit Swami Maharaj. But something you want to share, you're most welcome. I know Matananda Prabhu made some point. Matananda Prabhu, is that okay? Or
Prabhu, it's my understanding of time and spiritual world. Of course, everything is Krishna's energy. So even the material energy is Krishna's energy.
yeah,
But it's the same Maya. In spiritual world, she is Yoga Maya, and in the material world, she is Maha Maya. Same thing. So similarly, time. My understanding, and I may be wrong, is that time is there with in the spiritual world also, but it is, how do I say, it is absent in its effect. So over here we have the effect of aging and whatever and change. So in fact, one of the definition of time is it's a measure of change. But in spiritual world, that change is not because of time. As you had said, it is because of will. So Krishna is always full in his power, and time is one of his energy. But it's, how do I don't know if I'm using the right words. It's conspicuous by its absence. It's there with Krishna. It's unmanifest. Let's put it that way. So it's there as his energy, but it's unmanifest. So I wanted some clarification on this point, whether my understanding is correct. And it manifests in the material world.
yeah, that's a good point. Well taken. Yeah, whatever I said, I can say again, but that's what I heard. That time is there, and it's not. It does not have the power to control anything.
Correct.
Krishna and his devotees control.
Correct.
Control, in a sense, they decide.
Yeah.
When to do what and when to do something next. Here, time is forcing us. Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? We still have 6 more minutes.
Well, if no one has, I'll ask a question. Time is so precious, like you said, Chanakya Pandit, right? Millions and billions of dollars can't bring back even half a second. It's gone. But there are so many, and it happens to all of us. There's a common saying, what are you doing? Time pass. Like nothing, just wasting time. So how do we, like, time management bolte hai na, Prabhu? So, and especially for grastis, they have work, they have house, they have then also sadhana and all these things, so many things. So how do we grastis, sadhakas, balance the time? 24 hours is for everybody. Devotee, non-devotee, child, old man, whatever. So how do we manage our time so that, it's not being wasted and everything can be done nicely, not one at the expense of others? So if you can please share some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was talking with one young man also about this, and our conclusion was that the value of the time we're not realizing, we're not seeing time as a sacred property of Krishna. Just like we're seeing, not seeing, but at least we deal with our altar as sacred. We don't go with the shoes and the juta hath and eat
Mm.
food, and we're careful.
Mm.
But we're not doing that with the time. Even though Krishna's altar and Krishna's time, they both are sacred. But we're not doing that. So I was meditating, thinking. Then I realized that, hey, it's not just the time, it's actually the mind. Our mind has gone berserk. And mind wants to do so many things. It's trying to please so many situations, trying to make so much money, trying to retire today, trying to do so many things that mind has taken over the time, or my time, your time. So we lose control over time because we have lost control over our mind. That was my, to be very frank, honest, for my own life. And when I'm saying it, lost control over mind, I'm talking to me, myself. So please don't, anybody here, 15 of you, don't take it that I'm talking to you, I'm talking to me. And because I have lost control over my mind, I have lost control over my time.
Mm.
And this young man, I was talking to, he verified it. He said, oh yeah, that sounds right. Because he said, he thinks he's going to play a video game for 20 minutes, but his mind makes him to play for 4 hours. So because mind has taken over his mind has taken over his intelligence or mind, therefore his time is like, बोलते ना, हाथ से निकल गया है. It has left the control of his mind. Time has gone out. So 20 minutes become 4 hours before he knows. Now that example, we can connect with, but I think I would like to put that example in my own life at this time when I'm 60-year-old, how my mind has taken control over my decisions. They are not my decision, but they are decisions of my mind. And that their mind is pushing me to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, even though I only want to do A and B. I should be doing only A and B. Therefore, I have lost control over my time.
Very nice.
That was my, my realization after thinking through. It's not very rooted in the Shastra. I'm not quoting, 5 verses, but that's me. I'm not a Gyani, Dhyani, Tyagi, neither, nothing. But this is my small realization.
Very nice, Prabhu.
1 minute to 8 o'clock. So to follow the instructions of Chef Kashpur, we should wrap up. It's 8 o'clock now. Thank you so very much, all the Vaishnavas. Vanchakalpa Taruvyaksham. Divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vaishnav ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you.
Devakinandan Prabhuji.
Thank you, Devakinandan Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Everybody,
Hare
Hari
Krishna.
Bol, Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Few announcements. Tomorrow we have a very special guest speaker. His name is HG Devakinandan Pr from Croatia. Prabhuji is going to speak on material nature, the second part that we missed on Monday. So everybody please join tomorrow and don't miss it. Prabhuji is a very wonderful speaker. So we can learn from. Yes. So everybody please join tomorrow. Then we'll continue. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Singeshwar Prabhu. Drive safely.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Take care. Hare Krishna.